I was 9 the morning a tin robot and a bad decision by two grown men changed my whole life, pushing a dented bike with a milk crate full of cinnamon rolls across Lincoln Park, yelling fresh rolls, still warm, trying to sound older than I was, when a boy's scream cut through the joggers and strollers like a ripped screen. Two men had him by the arms, heading for a gray SUV, and my feet moved before the scared part of me could vote. I jammed my scooter into one guy's knee. He buckled the other, swung on me, and hissed, "You want to get hurt, kid?" And I did what the girls on my block taught me. I bit his wrist like my life depended on it. Someone shouted, "Hey," from the path. The boy ripped free, grabbed my hand, and we sprinted toward the fountain. Hearts in our mouths, yeah. That happened. And when we finally stopped, he pressed cash into my palm and unclipped a little tin robot from his backpack. Chipped paint, wind-up crank. "He keeps promises," he said. Then a woman in a navy blazer whisked him away, and the SUV vanished, and I stood there with sugar on my hands and a robot in my pocket, thinking I'd get the lecture of a lifetime for losing pastries, but feeling like maybe I'd done one thing right. 10 years later, I was 19, and broke in that way, that makes you good at smiling with numbers screaming in your head, "My mom." Marisol was doing her best on a diner paycheck, chest tight, sometimes a pill bottle she didn't complain about, and I was one decision from dropping out. Our neighbor Rosie slid into a booth like a miracle and said, "North Shore family needs a live-in big house, one son who barely leaves, pays real money you in." And I said yes because tuition doesn't care how tired you are. The Ward place in Winnetka looked like a magazine cover. Brick walk hedges so straight they shamed you. And Mr. Hayes, the driver, said, "You'll meet Mr. Bennett before his folks fly out." Then he walked in and my brain forgot to act normal for 2 seconds. Tall runner shoulders, dark hair that didn't listen, that careful rich boy face like he'd been clapped for before. "Earning it, you're staring," he said without looking up. "You know that, right?" "I'm assessing the battlefield," I said. "Laundry dishes, your attitude. Where do I surrender the broom?" Mr. Hayes coughed into a smile. "Bennett didn't trial week," he said. "If you're not up to it by Friday, I recommend you to the gate copy," I said. "I'll put that on a throw pillow," and his parents floated in with carry-ons, all. "Sorry, we have Zurich, and take care of our boy." Elena, elegant and kind. Charles, distracted and firm, then gone, and I was left with a kitchen the size of our whole apartment, and a boss who could ruin a sunny day by breathing at it. He hated strawberries, dumped a smoothie in the sink with a flick of his wrist and a flat allergy. And when I brought roasted chicken, he said, "Where'd you learn to cook?" And I said, "The school of if you burn it, you eat it." He blinked like nobody joked in his house, then told me, "Rosie should have sent herself. I didn't ask for this." And I said, "Nobody asks for half the good in their life," and slipped out before my mouth picked a bigger fight. You know what I mean? But loneliness wears good shoes, and Mr. Hayes told me the truth while drying plates. Bennett was almost taken when he was little. After that, the world got smaller, safer, maybe meaner. Definitely. And the thing about me is, I don't know how to leave people alone when they're disappearing. I watered plants that didn't need it on the terrace, wiped a clean counter. While he gamed, left a glass of water, where he talked to the night. "People think rich is easy," he said toward the yard lights. "Try being the calendar note." "Your parents always move depends," I said, "on whether the person is worth the water." "You don't know me, not yet," I said, and he nearly smiled almost, which felt like a crack of sun between clouds. We called a truce by accident when he pulled a spare gaming chair beside his and dropped a headset on my head. "Can you aim?" "At all?" he asked. "I grew up dodging buses and throwing elbows in gym," I said. His hand went over mine on the mouse to show me the controls, and for a second I forgot to breathe, and hated being 19. We won a match, and he pounded the desk like a kid. Not terrible. Reyes, which was high praise from a glacier, then wrecked it the next morning, when he found me whisking eggs and said, "Don't insert yourself into my day, do your job and don't get involved." It wasn't the words, it was the scalpels inside them. So I put the whisk down, cleaned the counter, took the long way around. Him called my mom. On my breaks, swallowed the clinic pills for blood work that had gone sideways a year back, and told the air I'm fine until it almost believed me. Then I hit the grass in the garden, like a switch got flipped, lightness in my head. Bennett's voice sharp in a way I hadn't heard Mr. Hayes. Car now, ER lights, papers, signatures, and a doctor who said leukemia in a careful tone like the syllables might cut me treatable, they said, which felt like a card trick. Bennett sat all night in a plastic chair with his elbows on his knees, like he was protecting a candle from wind. "Don't look at me like I'm dying," I croaked when I woke up. "I still owe you breakfast." "Don't joke," he said, voice wrecked. "Then don't look like that. It's scaring the nurses," I said, and asked to go home. Not Winnetka home, Pine Hollow home, our no stoplight town where people wave because the alternative would be weird. And he drove without asking, like he'd decided my burdens were his, at least for that day. Mom met us on the porch and made caldo and told stories and pretended not to be tired. And Bennett sat at our wobbly table like a giant in a dollhouse showing pictures on his phone of places I'd never see. And for 1 hour, the world was simple. Then the twist that rearranged the past and the present sat in plain sight on our TV stand, small as a memory. I picked up the little tin robot with the chipped head and the wind-up crank and said, "Hey, look, some boy gave me this in Lincoln Park, loud and rich and scared, never got his name." And Bennett changed color like someone opened a curtain inside him. "Lila, that was me." The kitchen went quiet in that loud way kitchens do when every sound suddenly matters. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. I laughed and cried and laughed until crying won, and fate smirked from the mantel like it had been rude on purpose, holding a promise for 10 years and dropping it on a random Tuesday. The next weeks cut like glass. Mom never told me her heart was worse. She ran on coffee and pride until her body protested. I found her on the kitchen floor with a breath that wouldn't straighten out. The ambulance was fast, and reality was faster. Grief doesn't knock, it walks in and rearranges the furniture. At the funeral, people brought casseroles and sentences that tried to build a bridge over a canyon. Bennett stood next to me like a guardrail. Later, I found a mason jar of cash in her drawer labeled, "For your college. Go finish." I sat on the bed and finally let myself be the child she'd protected. And he said, "This isn't the end," like the robot had whispered it to him first. And when chemo began, I learned the skill of small goals. Sip water, hold down crackers, sit up for 10 minutes. And he learned the choreography too, playlists that didn't annoy me, battles with insurance on hold forever. A hand that didn't let go when the room spun. His parents came home and saw their son in a hospital room instead of a headline. And Elena cried soft and messy and tucked blankets over my legs, even in August. And Charles played skeptic in the hallway. "We need to be realistic. She's an employee. You can't fix this." And I rolled out with my IV pole like an unwanted prop and said, "I'm not a line item, sir. I'm a person who got sick doing her best." And he looked like I'd knocked on the wrong door, and he was tired of explaining where the right one was, and Bennett stepped between us. Not a knight, a son who finally picked a side. "Dad, I'm not asking for permission to be decent. I'm telling you I won't be anything else." The air shifted. Nobody became a saint, but money opened doors, treatment slammed shut, and I rode that faster elevator with my eyes open. You know what I mean. On a Tuesday that tasted like metal, the doctor said, "Remission." And I didn't cry right away. I waited for the catch. When none came, I breathed out. "A year," he pressed his forehead to mine and said, "Okay." Next level, And my next level wasn't a beach or a ring. It was anatomy, flashcards, and night classes. I changed my major from journalism to nursing because the people in scrubs saved me the way I once saved a scared kid in a park. Graduation felt like a car commercial. The stage, the walk, the cap. And instead of proposing on stage, he handed me a freshly painted tin robot and said, "He keeps promises." Elena kissed my cheeks and apologized for learning too slow how to show up. Charles shook my hand and said I was wrong about you, and that sentence lives rent-free in my head. Years later, we had a daughter, Maya, and on quiet nights, we'd sit on her floor, passing the robot like a baton, talking about what money can't fix, arguing about justice in rooms we own and rooms we clean. We didn't always agree, and that's the point. The win isn't a car or a ring or an Instagram smile. It's a spine that doesn't bend for the wrong reasons. It's being underestimated and taking the room anyway. It's saving a boy and then saving yourself. It's telling a billionaire father, "I'm grateful, but I won't be bought." Here's the part that sparks arguments. A publisher wanted the story and dangled a number big enough to wipe out my friend's loans, Elena said. Tell the truth, even if it makes us look slow to love. Charles stayed out of it, Bennett said. Whatever you choose will be the right kind of brave. I wrote one chapter, and the book wanted a villain I don't have and a saint I'm not, and an ending tied with a bow I don't trust. So I put the chapter in a drawer and started a scholarship in my mom's name instead, for girls from towns like Pine Hollow. Is that philanthropy or penance or PR, you decide? The last time I walked through Lincoln Park, I bought rolls from a kid with a bike crate and handed her too much cash and a cheap tin robot from eBay because mine lives on our mantle now. He keeps promises, I told her, and she looked at me like I was the one who needed saving. Maybe I did, maybe we all do a little, and that's my story. A bite on a wrist, a dash to a fountain, a tin robot that outlived doubt. And if you're still here, I want to hear you was, I wronged to turn down the book deal. If you were Bennett's dad, would you have told your son to stay away from the sick girl working in your house? When the rich help, is it kindness or a receipt they plan to cash later? Drop your take your own story the moment you misjudged someone and had to eat your words. Hit subscribe. If you want more messy human stories about class courage and what justice looks like where you live, I'll be in the comments reading every word.